Joining me now are two lawmakers who were at the hearing this morning, Senator Mike Lee and Senator John Barrasso. And gentlemen, welcome to Hannity. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
Senator Lee, quick question, though, on the news about the House. They didn't have the votes. What does this mean, considering Harry Reid wasn't going to take it up anyway?
It means that we need a plan. We need real leadership from our president, who needs to come to the table with cuts, who needs to acknowledge the fact that our government isn't living within its means because it's spending too much. We've got a lot of revenue. We just need to find areas to cut, and it takes leadership to do that. That leadership has been absent from this president. He needs to come to the table, and he needs to help us come up with some ideas as to where we can cut.
Yeah, I think the president has wanted to play politics with this from the beginning. Senator Barrasso, let me move to the Benghazi hearings that took place today. This is a very damning report, and I wanted to get your reaction to the testimony today.
Well, it is a very damning report. It tells you that really mistakes were made, lives were lost, and hopefully there will be lessons learned. But we need to hear from the Secretary of State. I believe that the president and this administration had a deliberate cover-up, or if you want to call it that, or I think really an effort to deceive the American people from the beginning of this. We need to know the president had promised that he would find out and get to the bottom of this. Who did this? Who's responsible? We still don't know. I asked that question in the hearings today, and basically I was stonewalled with an answer. We need Secretary of State Clinton to testify in person, in public, and on the record.
Well, when you heard, Senator Lee, that it went to the 7th floor and that's where Hillary Clinton's office is it likely she could have seen this? And we're also told that there were warnings at the annex and at the consulate saying that the risk was great as far back as a week or two before. Is that true also, sir?
Yeah, I think that is true. And look, what we have to remember at the end of the day, Sean, is that this is important to know. It's good to know that there were security lapses that were foreseen that left our U.S. mission in Benghazi vulnerable and unfortunately, tragically, led to the deaths of 4 brave Americans. But what remains unanswered is why it is that the president, 5 days after this happened, was still insisting through his spokesperson that this was somehow the result of an anti-Islam video.
Actually, 2 weeks later, if we go to where he was on The View and was at the UN, isn't that correct?
Yeah, look, this narrative continued for weeks. It continued within the first few days afterwards with Susan Rice, and it continued on for several weeks, well after, we now know, they understood that this was as a result of a terrorist attack. A terrorist attack that they understood was an attack, and that they also understood stemmed from a lack of preparedness in response to a relatively foreseeable attack.
Senator Barrasso, I conclude, and I've been following this from the very beginning, and most of what we said, if not all, turned out to be correct. It seems to me we were purposely misled because of an election. Now, there are people that were actually eyewitnesses that survived. They were at the consulate when it was attacked. Where are these people, and when will they testify?
Well, we want to hear from all of those people. The American people expect and want answers, but you're absolutely right. What the facts on the ground were flew in the face of what the president was talking about in the election. He was saying that al-Qaeda is on the run, but we know for a fact that al-Qaeda connected operatives were actually training in eastern Libya, not very far from Benghazi. This was a hotbed for terrorist training, and yet it didn't really follow what the president was saying for his election narrative.
All right,
and that's
gentlemen.
why I think, Sean, this was a deliberate deception.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. We'll continue to follow the story that the mainstream media ignores. We have 4 dead Americans, including 2 SEALs, and the first ambassador killed in 30 years, and obviously a cover-up, and we'll get to the bottom of it. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean.